What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you being here. My name's Mack, and this is Marsh Outdoors, EDC, and Gear. Hey, look, before I get started here, I want to take the time to thank you guys. The channel has finally went over the 1,000 subscriber mark as of like yesterday or the day before, which is really, really cool. I appreciate that so much from you guys. And I guess, some of you out there like the videos that I'm making, so I'm just going to keep on making them. And hey, hopefully we'll get to 2,000 subscribers before we know it. Before we get talking about the knife here, which I will do here very, very shortly, I just want to remind you that you can get 10% off Odin Wolf knives by using my affiliate link down below, which if you click on that, it'll take you directly to Odin Wolf's website. It will automatically add the 10% discount, or you can use the code Marsh10 at checkout. Also, you can use the code MACK20 on Woobin's website to get yourself a 20% discount off of a Woobin flashlight, which is the flashlights that I reviewed in my last video. Or one of my last videos, some really cool EDC options on there, headlamps, you name it, all kinds of different options, flashlight options on their website that you can get 20% off. So check those things out. Also, don't forget, follow me over at Instagram for all of the kind of outdoor and hunting related content, videos from the deer stand, camping, things like that. Marshfoot Outdoors at Instagram. All right, and I would appreciate that. Follow over there as well. So, the Cold Steel Kudu Lite, kind of a weird, quirky little knife that I just kind of stumbled upon. And I got this knife from Tractor Supply. Let's go ahead and wipe off that cucumber juice there off of this knife. So the Cold Steel Kudu Lite. And like I just said, I got it at Tractor Supply. I was there buying some chicken feed or something, and I saw this in the bargain bin. It was like $9. And I saw that it was a cold steel knife, and I've never seen a cold steel knife at Tractor Supply ever. And I was like, is this some sort of like company that's knocking off cold steel? Well, no, it turns out it really is a real cold steel knife. I was like, hey, it's kind of weird looking, and it's a departure from the type of knife that I would normally buy or carry or use. But it's $9. It's a cold steel knife, and it looks like it was wicked sharp just sitting there in the package. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to check it out. And now that I have, now it's actually found a way into a pretty integral part of my kit, which I'll talk about. So here we go. Now, I've bought this about a month ago, and I have used it a little bit here and there in the course of that month. I've cut some food with it. I've cut some cordage with it, things like that. So when I do my cut test with it, it's not going to be just straight out of the package like normal, but it's still going to be a really good representation of the factory sharpness with a little bit of use, which is not typically the case with most of my knife reviews, because most of them are right out of the package, brand new, unused, and I do this kind of initial review. So this is a sort of an initial review with a little bit of use. So, the first thing that I noticed when I took this thing out of the package was, like, as the name says, light, how light it really is. I mean, this thing is very light. And for a knife that's this light, you would think that it would feel really jankety and cheap. And I mean, look, don't get me wrong. It's not like you're holding like a $300 custom Winkler or something like that, or $1,000 custom knife. Okay, it doesn't feel like that in your hand, but it doesn't feel like a $9 knife either. I've had some really cheap knives in my life, and they rattle. They feel like that they're going to close up on your hand if you use them. They're not sharp. The blade's terrible. Just all kinds of things like that for that price. That's actually not the case with this knife. It for what it is, keeping in perspective for a $9 knife, it actually has a decent feel to it. So I was actually impressed by that. I said, hey, it's lightweight, but it still feels, sturdy in your hand, and it's comfortable in the hand. look, you can see this thing is long. I mean, this is probably close to like an 8 or 9 inch folding knife. Okay, and on the package when you buy it, it says EDC. And my initial thoughts were, look, I don't really consider this an EDC pocket knife because it doesn't have a pocket clip. It has no sort of locking mechanism to speak of. So for me, I really couldn't envision myself being my primary EDC knife. Certainly, though, now that I've had it for a little while and I've used it a little bit, I definitely see where it can be a good secondary EDC knife. Or in the case, I'll talk about what I use it for. So it's just really slender and slim and light. And when you do close it, even though that it doesn't have any kind of pocket clip or anything to speak of, it just slips into your pocket just really easily and just kind of drops in there. And you almost kind of forget it's there, depending on the type of pants that you're wearing, because of its kind of slim profile and its lightweight. So even though it doesn't have a pocket clip, you really still could pocket carry this knife if you wanted to, but I think it would be better served in a backpack sleeve, like a pocket that's meant for holding like a pen or a marker or something like that. Fit great in there, and you're not even going to know it's there because it's so light. So I've been saying that it doesn't have any kind of locking mechanism to speak of. And what I mean by that, if you're not familiar with knives or you're not familiar with a slip joint knife, with your typical, pocket knives, they're either like a lock back or a liner lock or a button lock or something like that, some sort of traditional locking mechanism, which means once you open the knife, it's locked into place, and until you disengage whatever type of locking mechanism it is, the knife cannot, or hopefully will not, close under use. Well, with a knife like this, that's a slip joint or your traditional type of pocket knife, they don't have that locking mechanism. So they can be a little bit less safe if you're not cognizant of that. So to me, that it is kind of a knock against this knife, but that's how this knife is designed. And what I was actually really surprised with is how robust. I mean, how it really snaps, how this slip joint on this $9 knife really snaps into place, and you cannot easily fold it down. And it doesn't like super easily open. If you're going to try to do like a one-handed opening with this knife, I wouldn't recommend that. You're going to end up cutting yourself for sure. So it needs two hands, but that's good with a slip joint knife. You want it to have some resistance there, and you want it to be held into place fairly well once the slip joint is engaged. Cold Steel says on their website that there's a heavy-duty spring in here, which is responsible for the resistance of the slip joint portion of this knife to keep it closed and to keep it from not closing on your hand when you're using the knife. So really surprised at the robustness of the slip joint on this $9 knife. You can see there it's got kind of like just a regular black glass-filled nylon handle. They've got the inlay there, a stainless steel inlay of a kudu horn, which is some sort of African antelope, which is kind of weird, but to me, it kind of added to the quirkiness of this knife. Like, it didn't take away from it. And I've said in other videos, as I've gotten older, I've kind of gotten into more weird kind of knives. And this one is certainly a little strange, at least from, looks and appearances. But from utility-wise, it's a pretty useful knife. It's great for slicing food. It's a very slicey little knife, especially in the hand. It just feels very slicey. You've got a traditional nail nick there to open it up, no thumb stud or anything like that. So again, not really meant to be a one-handed opening knife. So if that's a deal breaker for you, it is. But again, it's a $9 knife. Look, you could buy 3 or 4 of these things and toss them in packs, toss them in vehicles, and just have them there and know that you've got a decent little backup knife that's really sharp if you need it for any reason whatsoever. So, as I was talking, you've got to be careful when you use a knife like this of how you use it, or it will close up on your hand. But you just be aware of that, and you just be cognizant of it. So, we've got a classic clip point blade here. Reminds me of the pocket knives that I carried when I was a kid. Reminds me of my older buck pocket knives. 5CR M15. Or I'm sorry, 5CR 15 MOV on the steel here for the blade. Obviously that steel allows them to keep this knife super affordable, and they can mass produce this thing at a budget price, but they can put a really keen edge on it, and it's highly corrosion resistant. It's the type of steel that you would find on kitchen knives, and this kind of has that kitchen knife kind of look to it. Super highly mirrored finish, which to me actually adds to the usefulness of this knife if you're going to use it as an outdoor knife. If you ever got something out in your eye when you're outdoors and you're trying to look and see what's in your eye, this thing has a perfect mirror finish. And when you look into it as a mirror, it's a perfect reflection. There's no distortion or anything like that. So, not joking, like you really could use this as a mirror. And that can be helpful in an outdoor situation, depending on what you're doing. If you're putting on paint, you're going to go bow hunting or something like that, you got a little mirror here. So that's kind of useful there in that regard. So where this knife, when I first got it, I was like, I'll be surprised if I ever use this thing. But it's so lightweight. What I've done is I wear a little like kind of fanny pack thing when I hunt, and I keep my essential items that I want to get easy access to while I'm in the deer stand, or I want to make sure that I have on me. I keep that little flashlight that I did in my last video, the Woven flashlight, the E3. I keep that in there. I keep my little earbuds in there. And this now lives in that little pack. And what's nice about that is I've got a knife in there. Is it the best knife in the world? No. But is it something useful? Yes. And it's just a knife that's in there. I can drop it in there. I know it's in there. I know that knife is always in that little pack, no matter what. I take that little pack every time I deer hunt, and I know that I've at least got some sort of knife, some sort of blade that's not extremely heavy, it's very sharp, that's in there. And what my plan with this is to use it. I want to use it to field dress a deer, at least not maybe skin it out all the way, but at least go ahead and gut it out initially in the field. And I know I won't have any problem doing that because it's I use a Mora companion a lot to field dress deer. And honestly, this knife, as far as the blade profile certainly is different than a Mora companion, but the overall blade size is not that much different. You've got about a 4-inch blade here and probably about a 5-inch handle. So actually probably longer than a Mora companion overall. So that's what I want to use it for. I want to see how it does in that regard, and I think it's going to do just fine. And just a nice little lightweight, corrosion resistant knife. You use it, you clean it up, you touch it back up on the ceramic rod or something like that, and you toss it back in your little knapsack, and it's there until the next time that you need it. And it's already come in handy for me. So I always do a sharpness test in these videos, and I do a ferro rod test, and we're going to get ready to do that here. There's really not a lot else to say about the knife itself. We talked about the blade steel, we talked about the blade profile, clip point, we talked about the handle material, glass-filled nylon. It does have some texturing there on the handle, which does add a little bit of grippiness to it. We talked about the closing mechanism and the mechanism that keeps the blade in place, which is a slip joint. We talked about the profile of the knife, how it kind of just slips into your pocket, price point. So it's all there for just a handy little knife to have. So, hey, look, for $9, you certainly could do worse when it comes to a handy little knife to keep around. So, all right, now it's not really a good 90-degree spine on this. It's not like a really sharp 90-degree spine. It's a very highly polished blade steel. So I'm really not sure how it's going to do on the ferro rod. I got to be careful not to close this thing up. So I'm going to grip it, up on the blade a little bit. Yeah, so we're not getting anything at all on the ferro rod, and that's fine. This isn't a bushcraft knife, but I always do a ferro rod test. So if you're going to depend on this to strike a ferro rod, you better have something else to do it. So now remember, I have used this knife a few times cutting some different things, food, cordage, things like that, since I've had it in the last month, and I haven't done a paper cut test with it. So, I'd like to just go ahead and do that now. Got a little hitch in it there. That was a little too fast. Yeah, so there you go. That's right out of the box, and after some use. So it's got that thing that I love about knives right out of the box. You can take them, stick them in your pocket, stick them in your pack, and they're sharp enough, plenty sharp enough to get out into the field and start using. So, all right, guys. Well, that is it. That is the Cold Steel Kudu Lite. And I'm probably going to go and pick up another one of these because I do like it. The next time I'm at Tractor Supply, I was actually there again today, and I saw that they have more of them in stock. There was a gap. I went in probably a week or two after I initially bought this, and they didn't have any more, and now they have some back. So you might be able to run down to Tractor Supply and get one for yourself. All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Again, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Hopefully, if you're not subscribed, you'll decide to. And yeah, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the happy hunting grounds.